Hello there, friends, and welcome back to more Final Fantasy VI. Last time, we outfitted Strago and Realm with some new magical capabilities and got to see what exactly sets them apart from the rest of the cast. Today, we are going to be checking off the final few things we have left to do before we take on Kefka and Emperor Gestal in the Floating Continent, with the first order of business being here next to Doma Castle. Now, as a part of the brief negotiations we had for peace with the Empire, one of the terms was letting the Imperials out of the Doma Castle. They're no longer occupying it, so we are free to go ahead and revisit it. And it only makes sense for Cayenne to come back and revisit his old home. Now, if you have explored this area already, you'll know that there are a few items here that you've already grabbed. However, because the Imperial occupation is no longer here, we are free to explore more of Doma Castle and see what we can find. The water is also no longer poisoned. As we can see, it has a blue hue to it instead of a purple one. But let's go ahead and see what is around here. Entering this first room, this had an item previously. Let's check out some of these rooms that we were not allowed inside because of our other NPC friend. One treasure chest, high ether, that would have been really nice. An elixir, of course, in the clock. I guess while we're exploring for a little bit, there is actually a feature that is in the Pixel Remaster that I want to go ahead and show off. I've been kind of talking about the SNES version constantly in the past few episodes for various reasons, and one thing I really want to show is the graphic display, adjust the look of the on-screen graphics. We can toggle it to the classic look, which will kind of replicate the CRT aesthetic that the original SNES and Super Famicom release had. This is pretty cool. I think that funnily enough, I think it's best if you're going to use the CRT look, it's best to have it on a standard CRT. There's prayer beads right there. I think that's a new one. Yes, prayer beads, evasion plus 20, pretty good. But if you're going to use the CRT function, I would say just find the CRT to play with. But if you don't have access to that for one reason or another, this is still a pretty good way to kind of experience how a lot of people first played through Final Fantasy VI. I actually know a few people that have bought the Pixel Remaster version that complained about the oversaturated graphics and wished that there was kind of the CRT effect, and it's like, oh hey, well, there's now this feature added onto it, which is quite nice. Going back into Cayenne's old room, we have this treasure chest, X potion. Well, I don't really want to diminish the intensity of the scene where Cayenne finds his family dead. Every single time I've seen that cutscene, that treasure chest bothers me. I'm like, I wish I could get it. But obviously you can. But that's all of the treasure for us here in Doma Castle. There's really not much to explore here in this barren wasteland, but it's nice to revisit an old place that we haven't been in a long time. Next on our list is something that, while I don't think is actually required for anyone who wants to play through this game normally, I would still highly, highly suggest it. This is probably the second time in the entire playthrough where I would actually fully recommend you take the time and gear up and level grind your party a little bit. Now, if you do not want to worry about levels themselves, go to the Veldt and just worry about learning some magic, learn the powerful Thundera, Fyra, Blizzara spells on everyone, give them a heal spell, and maybe even a raise, and you will be perfectly fine for the remainder of this segment of the game. But if you want to get some bonuses, this is probably the best time for you to do it that we'll have for a little while. I would highly recommend you go here to the Esper Cave for your level up session. In terms of what you do, if you are on the Pixel Remaster version, using any of these boost effects will really help your leveling. though do take care to mind how much EXP you're gaining as to not accidentally go overboard and either level up too much or level up too early and get the wrong bonuses for your characters. So I would suggest that if you're going to level up here in the Esper Cave, prioritize level up bonuses over AP gain. You will get a lot of AP gain, but use this time to level up your characters. If you're going to level up magic, go to the Veld, as it is a much safer way of doing so, and you can also work on Strago, his lore abilities, and Gao's Rage. Either way, though, let's go ahead and head in. I'm going to go ahead and turn the configuration on to 4 times, as all 4 of these characters that I have currently in my party have the Magicites I want equipped on them automatically. All you're going to want to do in here is just walk around the entrance area and set up just an elemental attack. I would recommend either fire or lightning, and if you have a physical attacker, just set up something random and see what happens. Sabin's going to want to do Rising Phoenix. Gao, let's go ahead and do Chaser just for the Magic Ray, and then we can have Celeste just spam Thundara. After this point, you just do auto battle and move on from there. Alright, Chaser. Alright, he's just going to do the float, that's alright. You're going to get quite a bit of EXP here. Pretty much every enemy loadout in this dungeon will reward you with a crapload of EXP and a lot of AP, so you're going to learn a lot of things here. Kyan got 2 level ups right here. He also learned Flurry, which is a new Bushido, which I actually think... What, is that the second Bushido we've learned? No, that's literally the first Bushido we've learned in a while. Okay. Well, that's actually the first one we've learned in general. Flurry is based on Kyan's physical attack, meaning that you're going to need him to be in the front row in order for it to do as much damage as possible. But it is a 4-hit attack that is pretty strong. If you're using very strong physical attack katanas, like the Kazakiri and whatnot, you're going to be doing quite a bit of damage with it. Overall, though, we're going to be trying to boost these guys as much as we can with what we've got, and I guess while we're leveling up these guys, which I'm going to try and moderate myself with how high level I'm going to get. I'll probably swap out Sabin once he hits like level 22 or something. But while I have these guys here, I'm going to go ahead and talk about a few of them real quick, because I haven't really gotten the chance to really talk about these characters on their own now that we've kind of seen them all develop at least a little bit. The least of that, though, is definitely Gao. Gao gets his time to shine later down the road, but I generally really like Gao. With every playthrough that I do of this game, I tend to like Gao more and more, and I can really see why a lot of people gravitate towards him as like their go-to super powerful character that we will use every playthrough and will not play the game without, as he's pretty invaluable if you have the right rages. I definitely am guilty of not valuing Gao very high in my first few playthroughs of this game, but I definitely see his value now. Kyan, on the other hand, is a character that my opinion has deteriorated with every playthrough. I don't think he's bad per se, I don't think any character in this game is really bad, but I do think that he's very underwhelming compared to a lot of the other physical attackers. But I actually have made a super powerful Kyan build that has impressed me, but not as much as some of the other characters, like Sabin or Celeste here. Sabin is part of my favorite duo in this entire game, being the Figaro brothers, so I think it's pretty obvious what my opinions on him are. Celeste is a unique character. I don't really want to go into her too much, as we still have a little bit to go before I feel like my true opinions on her character can really be told. But I will say that she is a character that is very special to me personally. I guess I can go ahead and talk about it a little bit. I do want to save this discussion to go into a little more detail later, but I have a very close family member, my sister, in fact, who is named Celeste. Now, while our parents will not say that she was named specifically after this character, I think we all know that she was. So I've definitely always seen Celeste in this game as more of as a sister character that I can't really get that out of my head. I just see my sister whenever I see Celeste, and it's definitely changed my opinion on the character quite a bit throughout my life, especially compared to a lot of other people. There's a lot of people who don't like Celeste very much, there's a lot of people who really do, and I feel like I'm kind of in the middle, because being a sibling definitely changes how you see characters, because siblings have a strong love-hate relationship with each other, and so I kind of share that with Celeste. I have a strong love-hate relationship with this character. Anyways, I think Celeste, speaking of Celeste, and Sabin are pretty good in terms of their stats. I might bring Celeste back in for another round of leveling up here in a second, just to get her to level 22. But that's going to be kind of the level I aim for all these characters, is 22. So let's go ahead and work with some of these other ones. Let's go ahead and move Terra down. Actually, let's save Terra for one of the latter ones. Let's bring Locke down. Who can babysit Locke in terms of damage output? I'm sure Relm can, but she's also fairly low level, so we're gonna need someone to babysit her too. Let's also bring in, who is our lowest level? Setzer? Yeah, let's bring him in. And let's bring in Edgar. This'll work. Alright, next up on the chopping block is Locke, Relm, Edgar, and Setzer. So, let's go ahead and head inside. I've also gone ahead and equipped the Alarm Earring and Gale Hairpins on this team, so that way I can avoid back attacks and ambushes, and set up for as many preemptive strikes as I can. Let's go ahead and set up some powerful magic attacks. I'm gonna have Edgar do some magic attacks here, as so there are certain enemies in this area that are resistant to physical damage, so having Edgar pull out the magic attacks is probably going to be the best play here. I'm also going to work on leveling up his strength, as after a certain point his tools aren't going to become as useful, so I'm going to have to prepare him to be kind of the jump man of the team. Setzer's damage should be not the greatest, but it'll be serviceable, and Relm is going to be babysitting these guys, trying to get them leveled up. Strength +2, magic +2, magic +1. Excellent. I honestly probably could give Setzer the magic +2 level up, as Relm really won't need all that much to make her super duper good. But I'm gonna work with what I got right now. I guess going on the trend of talking about these characters, let's go ahead and talk about Locke. I've talked about him a little bit, about how his character is definitely controversial for some due to his obsession with his dead girlfriend. But honestly, I think he's a fairly endearing character that has an interesting message about obsession that really shouldn't go unnoticed. Now, I will say that it definitely paints him, pun not intended, it paints him as sort of a character that lacks a lot of... What's exactly what I'm looking for here? A lot of sympathy, because he's just really weird. But I think he's genuinely a good guy, and you know what? I'm okay with perfectly flawed characters, because that's kind of that doesn't really work very well. But he's a flawed character, and I like him for that. Relm is our little gremlin of death. There's really not much to her, at least not right now. But I think the spunky young prodigy of magic is an interesting characterization, and her role as a Pictomancer is a unique one for the franchise. Well, at least it was a unique one, and it'll have some recent representation in a certain MMO here fairly soon. But generally speaking, she's sort of a unique character throughout the franchise that isn't really seen all that often, and you know what? I'm okay with that, even if she is a fairly simple character. Edgar is the other half of my favorite characters in this game, and well, Edgar definitely seems to kind of come off as a bit of a snarky playboy, despite because of the fact that he can kind of lock in as a ruler and as a strategist. That dichotomy really resonates with me as a character, as I think it's super duper cool that he can kind of flip the switch, so to speak, and I think that's worth something. Comedic relief characters aren't exactly my favorite. We'll go ahead and move Locke back out. Comedic relief characters aren't exactly my favorite, especially if they are sort of slimy like Edgar seems to be initially, but Edgar genuinely is a good person, and may take a few things a little too far, but never really oversteps his boundaries too much, and I think that's perfectly okay, especially because he's just genuinely a really cool guy. Setzer is a character that, similar to Celeste, I don't really want to talk about all too much, but not for... I don't have a sibling named Setzer. Now let's get that out of the way. That's another thing where I wish I was named Setzer. It's such a cool name. But I have an interesting opinion of Setzer, but it'll require a little bit more from the story to really showcase how I feel about Setzer as a character. Let's go ahead and bring him back into the party, though, so we can bring Mog. I think everyone except for Mog is at least level 20 now. Let's go ahead and start rounding these out. Let's bring Gawain. Is this a decent team? No, it's not. Let's bring someone who's... let's bring in Celeste again. Actually, no, let's bring in Terra, as she is level 20. Awesome. Next, we have Terra. And let's go ahead and talk about Terra real quick. Now, Terra was easily my favorite character for a really long time in this game. And while she's still one of my favorite characters in the game, I've come to love the Figaro brothers more, which is not a diss on Terra's quality as a character at all. I just like the brothers more. Terra was a personal favorite of mine from the entire franchise. Especially, well, for one, she was my main character in Dissidia, so that should say something. She was my favorite character to play there. She was always my go-to. And Terra, just in general, was a character that I was actually quite impressed by. I don't really have an opinion on who the main character of this game is, as that's actually a surprisingly hot topic that is debated in the Final Fantasy VI space, is like, who is the main character, really? But Terra was always kind of the poster child of the game after I actually started playing the game and realized that Mog wasn't actually the main character and just was on the box art of the SNES version. And Terra really surprised me, as my young, naive brain, I was not expecting to like a female protagonist as much as I did whenever I was really young. I liked the super cool male protagonists that I'd seen, like Cecil and Cloud, initially. But, so Terra was kind of a really unique case because she's so different from both of them. And I was really surprised on how much I liked her as a character. Now, she's pretty simple, but I think that's perfectly okay. None of these characters are really all that deep because there's so many of them, and the game only is so long. But I was pretty impressed with what they were able to pull off so far with Terra's character and her trying to find not only her own identity, but if she's even capable of having natural emotions that a human would normally have. It's something that, while it didn't resonate with me, was something I could sympathize with. And so, yeah, I respect Terra quite a bit. Let's see here. I kind of rambled on Terra a little bit long there, but I think she's pretty good at level 23. So let's go ahead and bring her back to the Blackjack. Talking about Mog now. Mog is a character that I've already kind of gone into detail about my opinions of. Thought he was kind of the main character, thought he was really cool. Dedicated most of my first and second playthrough of this game to making him the most overpowered character in the game, because I just thought that was really funny and I thought Moogles were cool. But besides that, Mog is a character that I just generally have a lot of bias towards, due to my initial impressions of him, and is a character that I hold in high regard and am really happy whenever he gets representation in any other type of Final Fantasy games, be it a spin-off or a future mainline installment. I'm always really happy, and I generally like the representation that he gets in those games. And I'm still waiting for the version of Mog that shows up in the Western ads for Final Fantasy VI. That version of Mog, the one like smoking a cigar and in that in the audition room and whatnot, like that version of Mog. I'm still waiting for that version to show up in any type of Final Fantasy game. That's what I'm waiting for. World of Final Fantasy mug, you should have been that. Well, I'm not gonna diss on World of Final Fantasy all that much. I really like that game. I think that game is incredibly underrated. If I had enough sanity, I might actually make a series over it. But I'm not even gonna guarantee that promise. I'm not even gonna entertain the idea of that. It's a big project. Let's see here. We have Strago in the party now. He's different. So let's go ahead and talk about him a little bit. So I am very partial to the wizard old man archetype. It's one of my favorite archetypes in classic fantasy, the Gandalfs and whatnot, and especially if they are a crazy old man wizard, that is definitely a bonus for me. Now, while Strago I don't think is crazy, I do think that his aesthetic and design, especially in the Yamato artwork, really does depict him as sort of out there in terms of his methods, especially because he's a blue mage. I mean, he's got to get hit to learn some things, and so he's definitely on the wild side of stuff. But so Strago's definitely my kind of wizard character, and is always someone that, well, I've already talked about how his abilities are not my favorite. He's always a character that I usually try to dedicate at least some time to make him pretty good, because I just like him that much. Let's see here, do we have... Alright, we're missing one level 23, and that's Gal, so let's go ahead and grab that real quick. But Strago's a good one. There honestly aren't a lot of characters in this game that I have multiple problems with. I would say, realistically, most of my issues with this game's cast just come down to their abilities just not being all that interesting, or way too time-consuming, or just really not my thing. But generally speaking, when it comes to personality, pretty much every single character in this game is a winner. I think that this game was able to really create a cast of characters, big as it is, that I could genuinely be like, yeah, I like every single one of you. For various reasons, but I like every single one of you. Okay, this should be the last set of characters I need to level up to at least level 23, because everyone here, these are the only 4 characters that are not level 23 yet. So, this is our last little set of grinding. I think 23 is a pretty good compromise when it comes to leveling up, in terms of EXP at least, as it's not too overpowered, but it's enough for you to really feel the effects of the Magicite bonuses. So, we'll definitely be seeing some effects from that. Got level 22, 23, 22. We'll go ahead and just stick around until we have everyone here at least 23. And if someone like Cayenne here kind of goes overboard with level 24, that's okay. We're just aiming for that kind of sweet spot of 23. Honestly, realistically speaking, if you are really wanting to kind of go overboard and just really see how high you can get your stats, I would say level 30 is a pretty reasonable area, while still having at least somewhat of a challenge coming up. Sabin learned a new blitz there with Chakra. We take a look at that. The inputs are very different from the others. Right, left, down, up, A. Will give you a Chakra, which will restore some HP to all other party members. That does not include Sabin, it is all other party members. So if everyone but Sabin is weak, or you just don't have any kind of healing ability on Sabin, you can use Chakra and heal your party up. It's a decent blitz that will find some use in certain occasions, but probably will not be the first thought you have when trying to gear him up. At least when, sorry, not when gearing him up, but when using him in combat. We also learned another new Bushido there, Dragon, which will manipulate the flow of ki energy to draw HP and MP from a single enemy. It's decent, but probably not going to be the first Bushido you use. Alright, everyone's level 23. Perfect. Oh, hey, Celeste hit the 999 HP. Neat. But even though we have everyone leveled up and ready to go, we aren't done yet, as there are still a few towns that I want to visit to grab some gear and relics, and also there is one final challenge that I want to take on before we head over to the floating continent. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a party, visit a few towns, which I'll go and show off, and then we will head towards our final destination before we head off to the floating continent. So, starting off, I actually want to be here in the Famasa Relic Shop, as there is one major thing that I really want to grab here. And that's some more earrings, actually. I have a lot of gil from the grinding I've done the past few episodes with the Veld and the Esper Cave. And I want to go ahead and grab a few of these, because I have a lot of casters and what have you. I think grabbing a total of 10 earrings is probably going to be for the best. Now, while you can still get earrings throughout the game, and I've found, I think, most of them that you can obtain in the game naturally, I think 10 earrings will serve me easily for the remainder of the game. Also, I think I'll grab one more Hermes sandals just to make it an even 4 in case I want to have everyone in my party have a full boost of haste, which will actually be coming in handy here fairly soon. Next, I also went ahead and stocked up on some very important items like Phoenix Downs, High Potions, 99 of them, also stuff like tents. You could also grab some sleeping bags if you really want those, but I think tents are going to be the most important item we have right now when it comes to restoring HP and MP, because it will affect everyone. So grabbing a lot of tents is going to be quite useful. The only other place I really wanted to visit was the Jidoor Armor Shop, as I wanted to grab a few more twist headbands and white dresses. Again, the white dress becomes inaccessible to purchase if you don't buy it here, so I'm going to buy a few of them. And also twist headband, which there are only 5 characters right here that can equip them, so let's go ahead and get 5 of them. Why not? And then the white dresses, we've got a decent number of them as well. And for our final order of business here today, I would like to take your attention to the northeasternmost island on the map, right here, where you can see my little red arrow icon. There is a unique enemy on this island that I would highly suggest you take down if you are feeling up to it. This is sort of a challenge for this segment of the game. It is not a leaf bunny, I'll be frank there. But there's a very specific build setup that you need, or at least I would suggest you have, in order for this stuff to work. Now, there are many ways to take down whatever enemy I'm about to fight here is, but here's how I normally do it. So first things first, with Terra, I have a pretty standard setup, but something you're going to notice with Terra and Celeste specifically, I have built them to have a pretty high amount of magic evasion and just general defense overall, while not really focusing on magic damage at all. Also, all 4 party members are running the Hermes sandals to give them automatic haste at the start of combat. Edgar and Sabin are built to be very strong strength-based attackers, as that is going to be the main way we're going to be dealing damage to this enemy. I have also taught Stop to both Celeste and Terra, as that is going to be incredibly useful against fighting not a Darkwind or a Leaf Bunny, but it's nice for you guys to show up for this occasion. Aha, there it is, the Intanger, aka Intangible. So the way that this fight works in general is that he is going to be sleeping right here where we can barely see him, and we're going to use this time to kind of set up our team. We're going to go ahead and cast Shell on everyone, as this is going to be very important. We can cast Protect on everyone as well. While the Intanger is in this state, he cannot naturally attack you, so use this time to buff up properly. There we go. Whenever you wake up the Intanger, you're going to be in for a world of hurt. So you're going to need to be ready with your stop spells in order to stop their attacks in its tracks. The Intanger has the ability to cast Meteor, which is a very powerful non-elemental magic spell that can and will kill your party, though with the current stats I have, I might be able to survive a few of them. Next, let's go ahead and start casting Stop on the enemy. This will wake up the Intanger, which, if you're wondering, in Japan, the Intanger is named the Sleeping Lion, which is based on the term to never mess with to never bother lions rest. I think I've gotten that term wrong, but generally speaking, that's what it is. Now, with Edgar and Sabin, we're going to be using our standard physical attack abilities to deal the most damage we can. And with our casters, we're going to be spamming stop. And this is going to be the general game plan here. The Intanger has a lot of HP, so this is going to be a long fight, but hopefully we can work through it pretty well. We can also see that even though I've dedicated pretty much everything to every single level up with Sabin to magic, his physical attacks are still pulling through. There's Meteor, the magic evasion from Terra is really pulling through there. There's a lot of damage on Sabin. Once he does stop, he will go back to sleep. Unfortunately, I had auto battle there, so we're going to be in a bit of a predicament. I'm gonna try to use Terra to get Sabin back up. And I'm gonna use Celeste to heal a little bit. And we'll continue drilling with Edgar. And then we'll use Terra because I've got Stop going. We can use Cura. Unfortunately, I would use stuff like Carbuncle to get Auto Reflect, but unfortunately Meteor goes through that. Let's also try to top everyone off. I don't think I'm gonna live Meteor unless they block it. Yeah, Celeste is gonna go down. That's okay. We're gonna bring her back up. Oh, I did Phoenix down on Sabin there, unfortunately. Let's bring Celeste back up. We have a little bit of time to recuperate, so we're gonna do just that. We're gonna go ahead and single target Cura Edgar. We're gonna let Sabin's turns pass. Let's go ahead and single target Cure Celeste. And then, honestly, if Sabin gets hit, he dies, he's not gonna live an attack. So let's go ahead and just begin our process again. I am gonna haste up our two fallen comrades, so that way they can just keep going and going and going. Do I have haste on Celeste? I don't think I do. Okay, well, we'll have her start casting Stop then, because I can have Terra immediately follow up with another haste, and we can begin blitzing and drilling once more. Drill. We can cast Stop again. Wait for Terra's turn to come around and begin casting Stop with her. See if we can get some damage in. Eventually, if you do enough damage to the Intanger and it gets an action in, it has a chance of fleeing. So try to deal as much damage as you can. There's Meteor. Everyone's getting hit. Okay. We're going back to sleep. Unfortunately, I did have auto battle up whenever he used Meteor. I should really not do that, because now we're in a bit of a pickle. Okay, well, he is stopped. He is actually stopped, so we can heal everyone up, because I can survive a few Meteors. It is doable. I've just got to be really careful. There we go. This is probably the hardest challenge you can do in the game as of right now. And so, only do this if you really want to. There is a Rage and a Lore Magic spell you can get from the Intanger if you really want them, but they aren't necessarily required. Let's go ahead and use some Phoenix down with Edgar, as we do have these stops being cast here. There we go, it'll wake up the Intanger. I think he's honestly pretty close to being dead, realistically speaking. I am running low on MP here, though, so I'll need to be ready to just maybe even use an elixir or something to bring Terra and Celeste's MP back up to where they were. Ideally, we can do that here fairly soon. I might actually try to do that right now. Let's use an ether or something. Elemental rods also are a decent way of damaging the Intanger if you do not have other means of dealing non-elemental magic damage or just good physical attack damage. So you can stock up on those rods to deal pretty good damage, or you can also use Strago's Traveler ability, which is also good non-elemental damage. Let's go ahead and use an elixir. Do I not have? I have one, yeah? I have a lot of elixirs. Yeah, 12. Let's go ahead and throw one of those on Terra. And then let's have Terra heal Sabin. And then we'll prepare our onslaught once again. Where is Stop? There's Stop. Alright, we're gonna have Terra prepare Stop as well. There we go. And then we begin the attack. Awesome. Here we go. Eventually he'll go down. Lots of meteor strikes, lots of suplexes. Come on. Take him down, Edgar and Sabin. Show him the power of the brothers. I feel like he's got to be nearly dead. Nope, he's doing more meteors. Okay, we got the evasion. It's the brothers are taking the brunt of the damage. And they both live, so we are good to keep going. Again, honestly, the Enchanter does not drop any EXP or Gil, if memory serves, only AP. So, honestly speaking, you could probably just let... You shouldn't be afraid of letting your teammates die and out of fear of not getting any kind of reward for EXP. So, don't worry about that too much. And again, the Enchanter is something that you can actually encounter later if you fight it now in the... you can get it in the Veldt. So you can always fight it later down the road. There's the meteor again. It's going to be the Not brothers that are taking the hit. Going back to sleep. We need to get Terra back up as we are not in a great spot again. This is by no means the best optimal way of dealing with this enemy. But it is the most consistent way I have found to beat this mini boss, so to speak, without too much issue. I do think that there are better ways to do this. Oh, meteor again. Just on Celes, and it goes down! Let's go! We get 20 magic AP. That's right, because I have the ×2 AP thing on. We can learn a lot of abilities. Unfortunately, Celeste does take one for the team, but we beat it. Ooh, that's true testament to our ability, huh? I guess, sort of as a celebration, let's go ahead and see what Celeste's tent looks like. Don't think I've seen this yet. Just a pure green with a yellow star. I feel like we've seen that one before, but just in case we hadn't, there it is. Again, if you want to, you can go to the Veldt, fight the Enchanter again, and try to get Gao's Rage. And Gao's Rage will allow for Strago to learn a new lore ability. But I'm not going to do that today. However, and while I will notify you guys again next episode, I will say this. If you have anything you want to do here, right now, in any of these areas, do them now. Any side quests, any shopping, anything like that, do it now. Because you are going to need it done before you go to the floating continent. Not going to spoil anything, not going to say anything about that, but I will say there's going to be dramatic changes to how things are played out in the game whenever you go to the floating continent. There will be new areas accessible, and there will be new items being sold that will take the place of old ones. So be sure to grab anything that you want now. But other than that, though, next time on Final Fantasy VI, with all of our preparations that have been made, I think it's time that we head over to the floating continent. So, with that said, I'll see you soon. Also, does anyone think that the back of the Blackjack during this, model right here looks like a face? Or is that just me?